I'm drinking green tea today instead of coffee. I wonder how that's gonna go.
It's gonna suck, man. Every time I've done that, I've always been like, dude, I need to feel more cracked out to feel productive.
Oh, I'm saving the coffee till after the podcast because I've
Oh
found that
yeah,
if I drink my coffee and then we do our little podcast, then afterwards um
crash.
yeah, I'm like not ready to do work. I'm just like, all right, I need to take a nap or something.
Yeah,
So I'm hoping that the green tea will just kind of be an appetizer, and then after we finish, I can take a coffee right into the day.
yeah.
Or that's the
It actually works out. It might have been on Huberman, where I heard you're like supposed to wait an hour after waking up to drink coffee, to let your cortisol levels drop back down. Because right when you wake up, they're like super spiked, and I guess you don't want to drop coffee on top of that. So you're doing it right, hack.
no, dude, it's always
By
so hard to do that. As soon
the
as my eyes peel open, I'm like, where's coffee?
yeah.
Oh my God, does anyone actually wait an hour? Do you wait an hour?
Not on purpose. I mean, I have taken my coffee consumption down to like maybe like 1 cup a week or 2 cups a week, so it's not on purpose.
2 cups a week?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Damn, dude. I drink 2 cups a day.
Yeah. Well, I get it. I love coffee. I love the taste. I love the smell. I love the ritual. I love the feeling. But I think over COVID, my physiological reaction to it changed. It's not as fun anymore. So it kind of motivated me to, yeah, wean off of it a bit and be a little bit more mindful about consumption and what it makes me feel. So it might change, but
I do probably need to stop drinking as much coffee because it's one of those things where like the baseline gets created over time. So if you drink 1 cup a day and then you need to kick it up a notch to drink 2 cups a day, then you need to like the next day you got to drink 2 cups to feel the same level you felt with the 1 cup. So being able to, I don't know, be on 2 days and off one day might help, or taking a week off of coffee every month to to re man, that would be so painful though. I don't think I could do it.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Absolutely sure it does. Although what's funny is that one of my unofficial challenges I've been doing is just like just being normal as fuck. Like, because you look at people who are some people who are like 95 who've been smoking every day of their life, or drinking and eating fast food. Like, I know they're outliers, but I mean, I'm surrounded by a good amount of them. Like, even my dad, right? Who he doesn't do bad things, like he doesn't abuse his body, but he like eats like a normal person, like just does everything extremely normal. And it's just I don't know, it's kind of funny. So yeah, like maybe yes, but also there's like people who drink coffee all the time. Like, um,
What if it's
I
like a
don't know.
survivorship bias where you're like, oh my
Yeah,
God, like this dude lived to 95, he's been eating Big Macs every day, but he's like the only guy out of like 1,000 that
yeah,
eats.
yeah, 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 yeah. That would be the statistical description there. But I mean, I think I don't know. I think maybe there's another modular thing to modulate there that has to do with maybe portion size or frequency or something there. Um, but yeah. Anyway, funny idea sometimes to put on play different roles on that. So, but I do think that yeah, our demographic definitely I think stuff can suffer from like hyper productivity, like neurotic productivity. Um, so balancing that seems worth it.
Neurotic productivity. That's an interesting combination of words.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you go on Instagram, right? And I know, I mean, I know for a fact a lot of people, and experienced this to higher degrees myself, where you're like, oh my gosh, like I need to meal prep, and I need to meal prep. I need to meditate. I need to journal. I need to do cardio. I need to do strength. I need to do flexibility. Oh, I need to read books. Like I need to like it's just so many things, right? And then you lose sight of why these things are important or why these like methods exist in the first place. Because even things that are supposed to chill you out end up being things that don't chill you out.
Yeah, thinking about productivity is interesting. It's like you have to get all this shit done today, otherwise you're not productive.
Yeah.
You know, I never get all the shit I want done in a day. It's just like it just doesn't happen. I'm a good day, I'll be like 80% through my list. So maybe I'm always um too I guess like optimistic when I'm making my list. Or maybe I'm just bad at productivity. You gotta produce things.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a measurement problem, right? Because it depends on what you've set out to accomplish and whether that was like feasible or not. Like, I mean, anyone who says that they do or don't, like that'd be the first place to go. I mean, I never do. I like on my best days, like you said, I hit like an 80%. Or, you know, I think it's worth doing this, but I don't do this as much anymore. Which is like, isolate the one big thing that you need done, and then yeah, there's always these like smaller things, right? And all that matters is you get that one big thing done, or two big things, or sometimes I get like 10 little things and no big thing, and it's like, okay, how does that equation square up? But yeah, I don't think anyone ever like finishes. It's
Oh,
endless.
I think some people finish. There's like
Yeah.
some crazy type A people out there, and they just look at a to-do list, uh, and and it's just them and the to-do list. And
But
I
there's
think
always more, right? That's the number one rule. Like once you finish your work, there's always more work, right? Like,
yeah, there's always more. I wonder what the man, I hate talking about productivity, I guess like methods, just because it's such a I mean it's interesting, because I'm sure different things work for different people. And you probably have to optimize for yourself, not for anyone else.
mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's always interesting thinking about the methods. I hate talking about them though, because it never worked for me.
Yeah. I'm over it just because it's so played out. I feel like, yeah, just I mean, everyone's harping on productivity, but you're right. It has to be super unique and individual. You gotta be able to hack your own motivation systems. You know. So,
I
what
wonder,
was the time that you felt most motivated or productive?
probably like an hour before the deadline,
Yeah. All
most
right.
of the time. Um, I can't get myself to respect imaginary um like time boundaries. Like if
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hey Steven, I'm gonna finish this shit in an hour, okay? Otherwise, I don't know, um, nothing happens. But if I was like, hey Steven, this is actually due in an hour, and if I don't turn it in, something really bad happens, then I'll probably get a lot done in that hour. But I can't make
Yep.
myself do that otherwise. Like I can't be like, oh my God, dude, this deadline is coming. Like this morning, it was like 6:57 in bed, and I was like, fuck, I gotta be there in 3 minutes, but it's not gonna happen. And then it didn't happen, so I was 10 minutes late.
Yeah. 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 I can super relate to that.
How do you
Mm.
how do you can you make yourself motivated to do something like it's the last hour if it's not the last hour?
No, I can't do that at all. Um, One thing that no, I can't do that at all. One thing that has helped though is that like I used to like say any given work day, right? And I think there's a big overlap between people who are saying what you're saying and people who like find productivity spikes at night, right? In the late hours of the night or when you're alone or whatever. And for a good portion of my academic and professional career, a lot of times I would do jack all in the daytime, and then at nighttime when I should be sleeping, like every other normal person and recuperating, I would just like bang something out that I knew I needed the next day. But then as I got older, I couldn't. I kept falling asleep during those times, and so that I couldn't rely on that anymore. And so now I wake up early and then like do it really fast between like the hours of like 6 and 8, right? And there is a bit of an emergency there, just because I'm trying to get it done before people wake up. You know, like I'm like, oh shit, people are about to wake up. You know, so that's actually worked out. It is cutting it a little bit more close because now I don't have the buffer of like, you know, working till 4 a.m. You know, instead I have from 6 to 8 only, and that's it. So
I think when we did the 5 a.m. challenge, that was actually super helpful for me. Like those were easily my most productive days. Um, Honestly, the days I woke up at 5 a.m., I was probably more than 2x productive. So like the hours between 5 and 10 a.m., I was twice as productive as I would have been with any other 5 hour portion of the day. So it would be like I could probably wake up at 5 a.m. and then skip a day of
mm,
um not that I would do that, but that seemed like feasible perhaps.
yeah, no, that's good data. I'll be upfront. I have zero productivity days regularly. Um, even when I was fighting, I don't know if people get this idea that like you know Steven's like some type of grinder. My productivity, my output graph is like anything but linear. It's just like full of fucking spikes and valleys. And there's days where, I mean, just recently on Sunday, I had a day where I like was basically in bed the whole day. I was like didn't do anything, but was like on my phone. Um, there are some extenuating reasons for that. Like you know, I did Muay Thai for the first time in a long time, and I've been doing all of these sorts of exercises again. But um, yeah, I think imagine if you like asked people, you gave them a sheet of paper and you asked them to like plot their productivity curves, you know, like maybe on a day or on a week scale. It might be interesting because that tells you a lot about someone too, right? Um, like if you go, you know, you're super type A's, you go to meet someone and you see their linear curve is just like this, you're just like, oh fuck, yeah. Um, we'll just be acquaintances.
You can honestly, I mean, I have my Asana backlog. I click off shit throughout the week. Obviously, it's like all like right before everything's due, and I'm just like trying to like smash everything through the deadline. It doesn't make it through all the time, but or usually,
hmm
doesn't, but it's always on that last day. It's like that Sunday. I'm like, all right, guys, I gotta do a lot of work today.
Yeah.
I used to think when I was a kid, I used to think that that shit goes away when you're an adult. You know, like when I was in fourth grade or whatever, and I was like trying to finish my stuff like all last minute all the time. I was like, man, my teacher must be really on top of shit. And you know, I guess like when you're an adult, that's just how it is, and you'll figure it out at some point. But
Yeah.
here I am, you know, in my 30s, doing the same shit I was doing when I was like 8.
On that same bullshit. Um, you know, on this topic though, I hear it brought up a lot too. Um, certain professions, right, or certain structures of life that do provide that immediacy. Um, Healthcare, emergency services, all that kind of stuff. Curious what you think about that. Like, what would hack be like as a first responder, or like, you know, like someone on the surgical room floor, right? That would be, I mean, it's like constant emergency, right? Constant high adrenaline. And there's also this notion, I think there's like a correlating character attribute where also in those situations, like people of our type also can roll forward through, you know, certain consequences and emergency stuff. Like, you know, it's like a new day, like a new emergency. Shit happens, new day, new emergency. You know,
Yeah, so
almost a short term memory.
you get like a reset every day, or you
Yeah.
go into it and you have to like kind of wing some stuff a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think those types of jobs would be fun. If you're just kind of like, well, I'm trying to think, man. I don't know if I'd be able to do something like help, you know, like obviously working in the hospital and stuff like that, man. I might get PTSD or something.
Yeah.
Um, but I think being forced to do something, or not forced, but being in an environment where it's kind of like you you're not gonna not do anything. You know what I mean? Like you don't have a choice. Like, okay, so like in my environment, it pays to be proactive. It like thinking about before is like, I mean, if you think about life like a race, um, imagine if you can just get to the starting line at any point of the day and just fucking start the race even if no one's there. So obviously, like, you know, if I was like, okay, well, let's use the metaphor, the whole day is a race. Then why the fuck wouldn't you wake up at 5 in the morning if you wanted to win that race and then just like start 4 hours ahead of everyone else? And
Mm-hmm.
then by the time people are like waking up at 9 or 10 a.m., then your ass is already like, you know, you've already done more work than they'll probably do their entire day. And then you still have the whole day in front of you, right? So like it's kind of like a race that you're allowed to start early. Now, for people like me who doesn't can't get to shit early, you know, if my life depended on it, then obviously that format doesn't really help. Um, I'm more of a format where like if let's say everybody was sleeping and it was 3 a.m. and someone comes in and like wakes everyone up and is like, all right, run. Then I could probably pull that off better than the net average. Um, but uh, but if I was like, yo, you could actually get here 4 hours early and just start before anyone else, then I'd be like, no, dude, why would I do that?
Yeah. I think it's, I don't know. I'm catching one of these moments where it's like it's beautiful how diverse we all are in so many ways. Like how like you need all these types of people to make society work, and how the hell is society even really working with this like mix of people? You know, yeah, it's like so foreign when you talk about some of the other like productivity curves out there that people have innately. So yeah.
It is interesting to think about the different types of, I mean, there's so many different types of people and personality and stuff. Obviously, not everyone is optimized to live in a, um, I guess, like a capitalistic society. And I think one level down from, or many levels down from capitalistic society is like productivity. It's like the reason we need to be productive is because we live in a capitalistic society, or I don't know how many layers down that is, but it probably starts on the fact that we have a capitalistic society and we need to, I guess, like make stuff and consume stuff and such. And then so somewhere down the line, it's kind of like, yo, if you're not productive, then it's a bad thing because obviously, like the through the lens of capitalism or whatever. Um, hang on one second. My headset just ran out of batteries. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
All right, sweet. Um, but yeah, through the lens of like capitalistic society not being productive is bad, but not like everybody, like, you know, 300 million Americans have like a skill set that's like that optimizes them for being in a capitalistic society. So when you're talking about thinking about what environments your natural skill set and your natural strengths will fit you in best, I mean, I think that's a very interesting discussion because I guess on some level we probably think about that, but I still don't think we think about that enough. It's not like growing up, I was like, oh, I'm probably good at this thing, so I should go do this type of job. I don't know. Did you purposely end up where you are in terms of
Heck no. Heck no. Oh my goodness. Heck no. Gosh, I've had like the most winding route to where I am, which yeah. Um yeah, not at all. Not at all. I always felt like I think it's also interesting because yeah, I've always felt like I was, going that traditional conventional Asian route just because, but literally because I didn't know any better. Like that's just what people did, um, and didn't realize that there were like creative, intellectual kind of pursuits that you could do where you're creating, you know, abstract knowledge IPs and not actual like material things. So yeah, I think it is super interesting, and I think it's super interesting too if you consider like if you think of like our society and civilization as a substrate and how it might change when like let's say the entire nation has to go to war, you know, like what is required at that time. And it's funny, it's not too far long ago, you know, like 60, 70 years ago where that was true. um isn't that crazy, just like 70 years ago, like this whole like we had like food rations and factory, like you know what I mean, like basically if you had a skill set of that was high in agreeableness and like rejuvenation, you like the teachers whatever, right, you were like form the next group, and then if you were like had the other tendencies you'd go out and fight, and like the world was very much split between those two, like the people that would grow and farm and restore and rejuvenate, and the people that would go like yeah. And I don't know, that seems like to be the prevailing model, right? Like in terms of like resource scarcity and all that kind of stuff and competition, like you have equal parts of those two things. And now what is it? Economic soft power, like like
It's like what's the overarching meta in the society that
yeah,
you live in?
yeah,
Um, Man, when you were talking about going the non-traditional route, I was thinking a lot about recently I had a conversation with a friend. She was in VSA with me, but she didn't like really mess around with any of the other VSA kids after like third year. Um, but we were on exec together, so I kind of like I actually kind of fell off with her. But every couple months, uh, it used to be every couple months, but then like I think over pandemic, I hadn't talked to her for like 2 years or some shit. She texted me out of the blue the other day, and she's a dentist, and she's been a dentist for a few years, and I'm like kind of like the exact opposite, not exact opposite, but I'm the opposite of her in many ways. Like she went the very traditional Asian route. Her parents were like, "Yo, you need to be a dentist, you need to, or a doctor or whatever." She ended up being a dentist. She obviously studied very hard to get to that point. She kind of like followed all the rules in that regard, and then now she's a dentist, and I think the reason she keeps in touch with me is because I'm an interesting person to her because I literally, even at UVA, I don't know how the fuck I got in. I I'm sure she would see my study habits. It would literally be I wouldn't crack the book open to study for the exam until 3 a.m. the morning before the exam, do an all-nighter, roll up to class at 10 a.m., and then somehow, I don't know, pull off like a B minus or something. And and you know, and over the years we see where we end up. You know, she's obviously in a very professional, like highly respected position in society. You know, being a dentist is not easy, and I'm sure she spent years and years and years studying to get to that point. Um, you know, for me, I'm like kind of, I don't even know. I mean, I feel like I like doing poker and then like going into like I guess like restaurants and stuff. I haven't planned any of this shit out. Uh, didn't know I was gonna do poker. Didn't know I was gonna do restaurants, but here I am, and I think I'm doing okay. I mean, I could probably be doing better, but I'm doing okay. And then so I was texting her back and forth, and it does not sound like she likes being a dentist at all. And we're approaching, like, I mean, I'm in the upper half of my 30s now, and same with her. She's not married or anything like that. And just talking to her, she's like, yeah, man, dude, being a dentist is hard. I guess I'm gonna do this until I'm like 50 to 55. Hopefully I'm able to retire early, and so on and so forth and stuff. And I'm just thinking about, like, man, fuck, like when someone gives you like I guess like a traditional path, and then you take it without thinking about it, and like the uh and I don't think, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, people with a plan that can stick to it for that long is very impressive to me, because I don't think I'd ever be able to do that. And I don't even know if that's the best thing to do all the time. You know what I mean? Like the people that are like, yo, I want to be a dentist, or I want to have a kid by the time I'm 30, and then have a second kid by the time I'm 32, and then have, like, how does that even, I mean, that's definitely a weakness for me. I would not be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to plan that far ahead. Um, I guess it's a weakness and a strength, perhaps. But the other side of it is, if you plan too far ahead and you just stick to like this plan that you thought of when you were like, I don't know, a teenager, and then all of a sudden you're in this job that you don't want to do, but you have to do it because you probably owe all these student loans and shit.
Yeah,
Then it
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
sucks, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I wonder
Ooh,
what's optimal there.
that's a juicy topic you just brought up. A really juicy one. Um, First thing that comes to mind to me has got to be this word values. And I recently did a values exercise query on my Instagram story where I asked people what their values were. Um, and it's funny because I got a couple that like I couldn't give two fucks about, right? Um, but to your question about what would empower someone to stick to something like that, um, I feel like it's always values, right? The values that were instilled in you, uh, or that are just innate. Like, someone put security down as a value, right? And um, I think that's just really interesting to me, right? Because like maybe it's privilege. I mean, almost certainly privilege, and maybe it's just like you know parts of me having my dopamine all fucked up. But like I've never really valued security in that sense, like in any way, right? Like financial security, physical security. I've always kind of been able to flirt with that, but it makes sense to me. It makes a lot of sense to me that like there are a lot of people out there that really value security, right? However, they map that onto the landscape. Um, and so I think those values persist into your vocation and what you do, in a lot of ways. And there's always the people who are like the keepers of our institution, right? The people that make sure that like the traditions and things stay where they are in predictable ways. Um, and then, but I mean, there's always too much of a there can be too much of anything, right? And and a lot of it might be a response to what maybe certainly if she's from VSA, then I think I can maybe like assume that her parents had a big deal to do with that, coming from like a very unstable, chaotic situation, right? So um, now I don't know why you and I didn't kind of fall into that, given the same kind of background, but but I think that's what's interesting. Yeah, like I mean, I think that for our types, we're more of opportunists, right? So we might like with your poker analogy, like you might finally find this random untouched area of society, you know, um, and explore it for everybody else, right? Map it out for everyone else. So all types of people.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you why I didn't become a doctor. It's because I probably couldn't do it. So,
I could, yeah, 100%,
you know what I mean? Like, even if
100%.
I wanted
Yeah.
to, like, at some point, and it was probably Mrs. Spatz's 11th grade AP biology class when I realized, oh my God, dude, there's no no way I could do this for
Yeah.
however many years it takes for me to become a doctor.
Yeah. One
Dude,
time
I have.
I wrote a
Go ahead.
15-page paper in like a day and a half. I like locked myself in the library. I watched like people leave and come back, and I hadn't showered, and I was gross, and like I was like stuck in the library. I was like pretty. I was like at that moment, I was like, yeah, this is not good. This is not. This is like not the normal path.
Right. Dude, I have friends from that 11th grade AP bio class. One of my friends, I just went to his wedding like a year ago, and he used to copy off of me, man. I'm smarter than this dude. Um, he I'm like yeah, like he got into tech and I got into UVA, and like my SAT scores are better and all that stuff, and he used to copy off of me. This dude's a neurosurgeon now. He does neurosurgery, and like he moved to Pennsylvania because I guess there was a vacancy at a hospital, and he's making like a shit ton of money. I don't know how he's like making like $2 million a year, like operating on people's brains and shit. And I'm like, how the fuck did you figure out how to operate on someone's brain and society let you? But I mean, it honestly is super impressive to me because throughout college I watched it. He's like, yo, I'm gonna be a doctor. I'm like, okay, whatever, bro. I'm gonna be a doctor. Yeah, whatever, bro. And then like he couldn't get into med school right out of college, so he went to the Caribbean for 3 years to study,
Mm.
like like one of those like bullshit like medical schools in the Caribbean. He went there for 3 years so that he could get into a regular med school in the U.S. And then so he basically went to school for like 12 years. And then outside after he got out, he had to work like 80, 90-hour weeks at like some random hospital in like the bad parts of DC and shit, just to kind of um like I guess put in the work. And then at 37, he finally got a job as a neurosurgeon at this hospital. And I'm just like, dude, I would have given up at I gave up in Miss Spatz's 11th grade class as a 17-year-old kid. Like, how did you stick to this longer than than I had been alive at that point? I mean, he literally stuck to it for like 20 years. Um,
Wow. Good on
and
him.
and here's the thing, man. I I don't know if it's like, I mean, I don't know him well enough to understand like how much he likes it.
Hmm.
Like if it was just me and you talking, and I was like, "Yo, how's that neurosurgery shit going? Like, you like it, dude?" Like, you probably give me a relatively honest like response, right? But I mean, this dude I probably talk to maybe a couple times a year. We probably text each other back and forth. Maybe I'll text him on his birthday and shit like that. Um, but I'm not close to him anymore where I could be like, "Hey, dude, so was it worth it?" And then have him give me like a fully candid like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, it was worth it." You know what I mean? He'll probably like, I think he honestly, I think his response would be like, "Oh yeah, 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 it's worth it. I make a lot of money now." But then I'm just like, was it actually worth it? Like, I want the real answer. Like, you tell me if it was worth it. Like in terms of you know what I'm saying? Is because like this
Yeah.
blueprint he drew when he was like probably 15, and he stuck with it for that long, and um it can't not be worth it. Like he's not gonna, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't know. In order for him to tell me it's not worth it, he'd have to have like a fucking mental breakdown.
That's where I was gonna go with it. I don't know about your friend, but there's a ton of stories of this. People who have been high achievers, who have suffered some type of like crisis breakdown and being like, "What the fuck was this all for?" And then just boot off, right? Like it's. I think it's a tale as old as time, you know. Like once you get everything that you want. Like I mean, I think the problem too is that like there's it's such a cliche, right? But if on the course of this really long journey, you kept telling yourself, I'll be happy once I get to the end of it, right? And you've been telling yourself that for so long that once you get to the end of it, you realize that nothing actually really changed, right? This is the big spiritual lesson here, that you're still just like everything's the same, but now you're like you have some more letters on your name, or you know you can say certain things at dinner parties, and yeah, you're allowed to now do meaningful work, but it's still the present moment, right? It's still you, and you had to have realized if you had the right coaching, or you were lucky enough to make this realization that the grinding that you did was what you wanted. You like not the thing at the end. You wanted the pursuit of something, right? That was the meaning. That was life itself. Um, and so I think that if you don't somehow learn that along the way, and most structures that make you aim that high have it kind of baked in for you to learn that along the way, because you're gonna fail, you know. And if you don't pick yourself up, like you said, like how do you last, right? Like you would have given up, like any given thing, yeah. If you gave up, then you wouldn't have like forged the lesson, or forged the feeling that you really wanted, or you really liked it, right? Like if you walked away, you'll never have that. But if you had the chance to walk away and didn't, like that's usually where it happens. But if you are blindly like one, your aptitude is just so good that you're able to just like roll again, and make it after a certain attempt, but not being mindful and still able to get it. You could get all the way to the top without having forged, I think, that like security around your passion or what you want to do. So, yeah, man, a lot of people fall into that crisis. Like, you know, crazy entrepreneurs, investment managers, doctors, they're just like, for what? What have I done? You know, like I got a heart attack yesterday, you know, because I stressed myself out, or I lost like, you know, my good friend, and I could have called them yesterday, but I like didn't answer their phone or something, you know, shit happens. Um, yeah, I had a thought. I kind of lost it as you were talking, but like, I think, I think what's interesting here, going back to like the story we tell ourselves, I wonder what that inner narrative for them is. Like I think I also think that the only way you can kind of go for something like that is that you have this crazy story inside, you know, like I am type of story. um and it must be like very high fidelity, like high resolution. Like, you know, you ask your friend to close his eyes and like imagine being a neurosurgeon, and he's probably like, oh, I know what the air smells like in the operating room, you know, like I'm gonna be a neurosurgeon after 20 something years, or like.
Yeah, I mean, he's from an immigrant family. I know his parents wanted him and his brother both to be doctors, and his brother is 3 years older than him. Went to Hayfield as well, same high school me and you went to. And his brother actually became a neurosurgeon first, so he just kind of followed in those footsteps. And it was almost kind of like I'm not sure what his brother went through, but for sure, like his dad, like, you know, kind of like putting that on them, and his brother actually like forging the path. It was like his path to like kind of follow in a way.
Mm,
Almost like, I don't want to say like familial expectation. There was definitely some of that in there. It's not like he didn't want to do it for them. Uh, but I mean, it's kind of like, you know, talking about my friend in VSA. I'm sure she probably doesn't have a natural interest in fixing people's teeth and shit. But you know, at some point when your parents are like, "Yo, like you got to do this," you know, because you know, so you can take care of us when we get older and stuff like
mm,
that. You know, obviously you're gonna fucking do it, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You know, it's just like a thing. You know, it's like I'm glad I didn't have to go through something like that. I mean, I did try to walk that path. I couldn't hit as high as doctor, but I think I was gonna be an engineer like 95% of the time.
yeah.
You know, graduating from UVA with an engineering degree, but um, But yeah, and I wonder if it's harder now for kids or before, because before you didn't have like, and then like way before you didn't have that many options. So like way before, obviously it's just kind of like, oh, I just gotta work and make enough money to feed my family and stuff like that. And then uh obviously like our parents probably did that, right? And I think like going with the same strategy, being an engineer, you kind of keep going with that path. Um Now with the internet and stuff like that, and the fact that you have so many options, like there's many. Before there was only like this meta, like go be an engineer, a doctor, or like whatever the fuck, like pick one of these three. But now the meta is like, it's like you still have those traditional paths, but you also have like so many different options if your end goal is to just make enough money to have like to be able to take care of your family and have like the freedom that you want to have in your life. um
Yeah, I I don't want to be disparaging or sound like an out of touch like privileged person when I say this, but um, we have so many first world problems, right? Like that are first. Let me just say that there's like first world problems of like comfort or convenience that cause these like existential stuff. Like, so what if it's not your passion, right? Like, so what if you're not like deriving like fulfillment out of like it? And I think almost like because of that, this like hyper production machine that we talked about, where like everyone is like trying to produce and there's like too many things, like just plurality of things. It has also caused like real first world problems. Like we were chatting offline a little bit about the problem of homelessness, right for this podcast, right? Like that's also a first world problem, but like a serious one, like like a real first world problem, like that. The fringes of society are getting pressed out, and there's all this group of people that are getting left behind because like this production machine is just so like ridiculous, right? You look at other societal structures that are more communal based, and you don't have as much of this homeless problem, right? For better, for worse. Like I'm not saying anything is better. I'm not making an argument that one's better than another, but like I think when the primary commodity is like personal fulfillment, which I think that's what capitalism is based on, which is how does one person fulfill their dream, their existence, their potential, right? Like all advertising is based on that. Everything we do is based around like let's let one person get their dream, like, and let's market dreams. Like that's let's say dreams are like everyone should achieve their dreams, and if you don't achieve your dreams you're a failure. Like why can't you, like, and then everyone has this crazy pressure to like find their fulfillment. But how long can how long can we run on dreams as fuel?
how long can we run on dreams as fuel? That's a good question. As an individual or as a society?
As a society, yeah. I mean, both questions actually. I mean, they
I mean,
it's worth examining both.
as an individual, they'll probably tell you forever, right? I mean, because it's a dream. Like you fucking chase that shit till you manifest it. Or I don't know. But then as a collective, is that the
Yeah,
same thing?
well, that's the thing, right? Like, not everyone is supposed to be able to achieve their dreams. Like, not first of all, not not everyone has dreams like that, right? Straight up, there's just not people who like feel uber compelled to like live this ultra meaningful life, right? Um, there's nothing wrong with that, but then I think a lot of those people, and if you just like read some of like if you go on self help forums, like a lot of people are like that's the first question. It's like I don't know what I want, and I'm not passionate about anything. I don't know what I'm good at, right? It's like everyone around me, oh, so and so, like Susie over there is like super passionate about this, and she's good at it, and she knows what she wants. Like fuck, that's three things I don't have. You know what I mean? I can't, and like just like you said, I can't make myself be like care about something if I don't care about it, right? Um, and so I think that's where it sucks. And then the next bit is like, let's say you have those three things and you go forth to conquer. Well, I think that there's an argument that for a lot of people, even if you have those three things and you go out, you were sold a false promise, right? And this is where this whole generation of literature in American society was basically on this theme that like the American dream was like fake, right? It's like false. It was like, maybe true for some people, but like not like, if you're trying to generalize to everybody, it's not fucking true. Like it's like screws people. You can't just go out there and do like hard work and get what you want. And so I don't think it's sustain. I don't think it's like. I think it's definitely finite in many ways on those two measures. So
I mean, finite in the sense that, I mean, dreams evolve though. But I guess it depends on how far ahead you're planning. Like if I'm just dreaming about the weekend, or if I'm dreaming about like 5 years from now or 10 years from now. I mean, obviously every little kid dreams of like, let's say playing in the Super Bowl,
uh huh.
but they can't because statistically you're not gonna be able to, there's not a million Super Bowls. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. It's interesting to think that the society runs on dreams. Um, it's also interesting to think that some people don't have dreams because I don't think I like I don't plan that far ahead, so it's not like I walk around with like dream like, yo, in 5 years I want to be doing this, or in 10 years I want to be doing that. Um, some people actually purposefully like man like have a 10-year goal, 5-year
Yeah.
goal, 3-year goal, 1-year goal. Um, that's always
Well, I wanna
interesting. Yeah.
I wanna be careful there. I wanna make sure that dreams in this context is completely separated from like visualizations, which is just like, or law of attraction stuff that productivity like bros steal up. Wait, but I think dreams just like, some people dream of just like living on a small farm, right? Like, or some people dream of just like being fucking Luke Skywalker, right? Like, I mean, there's just like this identity formation comes from just fantasy, even, right? Like, forget dream, just like even fantasy, um, like somehow that correlates or condenses into like something more practical. But um, I mean, everyone has some kind of probably like thing they might like to just putz around on, right? Like, what about you, right? Like, I mean, not speaking for you, but like, what we did that love that language the quiz the other day, and like the top thing was like, having a good time with your friends. Like, is that part of your dream set? Like, or like, what are
Sorry, what was the quiz? I forgot.
it was what is it? Love language? Was it love language? It was seven. Oh, like our friend Min sent it to us. It was like It was like from 5 to 7, and it added a couple.
I forgot what I got on that. Um,
So I remember what you got. The first one you got was like quality time, like fun times. I think the second one you got was like maybe like intellectual stuff, connection.
sounds about right.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Like for me, like I do when you say dream, I do think of like the imagined future,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like almost like the law of attraction type shit. Kind of like almost like, hey,
Mm.
I need to manifest this dream that I have. This like imagined future is like, hey, I want like this thing to happen at some point in the future. I don't know how the fuck to get there, but my human mind and body will, you know, point A and point B that shit and like fill in the rest. Um, I guess I don't have dreams of like being Luke Skywalker or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like reality is already like really interesting.
Did
I
you
guess
have
man,
dreams of like having a family or taking care of your family?
yeah, I mean, I think when I was younger, probably more so, yeah, more so probably younger, but a lot of that probably influence like, from my environment and stuff, which doesn't like dismiss that at all because I do think your environment affects like um the things you want and desire in a way.
Hmm.
I guess as we've discussed earlier in the podcast, some of my friends like their parents want this, so they're like, "Oh shit, I need to go be a neurosurgeon." Um, but yeah, how do we get on this topic? We were on capitalism and then productivity
Yeah.
and then the world running on dreams.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're talking about people you knew potentially having like existential crises, or like how much were they bought into the reality that they finally got, right? Like at the end of the day. Um,
That does kind of suck, man. If you like take out all these student loans and shit to go and finally be able to be a dentist, and then you realize you don't want to, and then you
yeah.
just have to like keep doing it at least long enough to take out the student loans. But then even afterwards, like I mean, it's not like transitioning is hard or is easy because no other job in society will pay you that very easily. So unless you can forge your own path after um you know after decades of building out this skill so that you have the certificate that you can do it for society to be like, okay, all right, now let me do something else now. And and then you're like a fucking boomer. You don't even know what's going on with the internet and shit anymore.
Yeah. 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 Um, don't get me wrong. That does suck. That does suck. That sucks. That sucks ass. But yeah, the fatalist spiritual side of me, I would never tell this to somebody directly, right? But like, I do believe sometimes, like it had to be that way. Like that was the only, like I do believe that one of the best things that can happen to somebody, and worst things, is that you get what you want, right? Like you get everything that you want. You got your dream, right? Because then something starts to happen, because there's nothing left to want, and you realize you don't want it anymore, and you don't even want more of it, even if it starts to come in. Maybe there's too much, and you're like, I don't want more of it, and so I think there's like a awakening that happens from getting what you want. But actually, this topic actually brings up one that I've been investigating a lot as of late, past couple years, I would say. Um, I have been, for probably my entire life, and more so now as an adult, like played marriage counselor and therapist to my parents. Probably wasn't a fair thing to put on a young kid, but now that I'm older, it's like different. And um, the one thing I think that's really interesting is the existence of and the role of stay-at-home moms, right? And I think that these existential crises hit them especially hard and are very relevant in the whole, gender conversation today. Even though it seems like it's out of date, like it seems like that whole conversation happened in like first, second wave with feminism and all that kind of stuff, right? Seems like maybe that conversation should have already tied itself up, but I don't think so. Like I found my mom having a big identity crisis because and like my parents didn't divorce, right? Like it's super tough when like there's a sudden divorce, and yeah, you get half of the assets, but like one party has like vocational skills, has a network, has all this kind of stuff, right? Whereas one like was just a caretaker, and that's why like when people like shit on Karens and stuff like that, I mean they deserve it. There's some pretty awful people and awful behaviors out there, but I mean if you try to extend a little bit of like compassion, empathy, you realize that these people, like a lot of them have been isolated and stuck into some of these like caretaker domains or other domains where you don't have, like, of course you're insecure because like you don't really have anything that you can really lean on, right? That like you did, um, that society values, right? And and last bit before I just like volley it back to you is, one thing I've also been reading too is like what it's like for like what a firsthand experience is like for a woman to enter like middle age, because when you're young as a woman, right? Like you are constantly aware of yourself, right? Constantly aware of your safety, aware of like how you might come off, like, oh, maybe you're too friendly to this guy, so then now he thinks that you're interested in him, and then like, you know what I mean? Like you're like constantly like managing attention and managing your awareness. But then for a lot of women who enter old middle age, they've like told themselves like the positive one, well, the negative one is pretty obvious, right? No one likes to get old. No one likes to like whatever enter that level. But then there's like I've read a lot of firsthand experiences of women who enter old age where they're like, "Holy fuck, this is amazing! I'm invisible. No one like looks at me or cares about me. Like I'm just like I just like go around society and no one like like no one like I'm just like a normal person now. Just do whatever I want, like and it's like liberating as shit. So um, I don't know. I guess this is all to say that like yeah, going back to the identity stuff. If I had to back it back up, especially for women and vocations like stay at home mom, which is like what is a stay at home mom? You know.
Yeah, having those it's funny that you empathize with Karens. I mean, I think everyone deserves empathy. Um, I mean, but that is a good point. Because anytime I watch one of those videos, I'm like, yo, what the like how does that person not know?
So my mom is a Karen. I'm just gonna say it straight up.
Uh,
My mom is a Karen to other people. She's a Karen to her own family, right? Which makes it really tough for me. Like straight up. Like imagine like like some of the bad Karen videos. Like I mean, she's not that bad in public because that would make me concerned in other ways. But like the logic, right? Of like it's about like it's me versus the world. Like I have to like fight for mine. You know.
my mom
Like
has
in my
that in her
real.
too. No, my mom's
Yeah.
probably worse than yours. If you're gonna if you have that grading scale, I think my mom will it's pretty up there.
We still got to do our
Um,
Asian mom podcast.
yeah, dude, we probably get canceled doing that shit.
No, I think
Um,
it's more. Well, if we do that, it's more of like I would love to ask, like in before we go into the session, like ask all of our Asian friends, like, can you write us tell us like write like 3 paragraphs about your mom? Like we just want to know about what your Asian mom is like, and then we come into it and we just talk about Asian moms, right? Like, Asian moms are super interesting. Anyway, I'm sorry I cut you off. You're saying
no, you're
yeah,
good. I didn't have anything else to
yeah,
say.
yeah,
Um, I wanted to wrap up that thing about being a dentist real quick.
yeah. Let's
Because
do
I
it.
think I pointed to a lot of negatives, but I was just also thinking that okay, one of the major, I mean, a lot of the major positives is like your family needs you to do this so that they can get out of poverty, and then you did it. So there's that. There's obviously like I mean, it's more of a collective positive than an individual one if you're not like into the actual profession. Um, but going back to our parents, my dad probably did some shit he didn't like really care for like 40 years until he retired so that we could um have the opportunity to not have to do something like that. So I was thinking about the other side of the coin. It's like, okay, this kind of sucks that I did this shit for so long and I don't actually want to do it. But then the reason you're doing some shit that you don't want to do is because of this other thing that you really, really want, to be able to take care of all your family and friends and all that stuff. So I think in that sense, in that regard, then it's worth it. But um, but yeah, I think because I left that out of the equation, I just wanted to close that loop. And I think when you're
Yeah.
talking about Asian moms and stuff, and like what they have to do to make it so that their family like you know gets where they need to go, but then they're left with like, oh, society, it's like, oh yeah, stay at home mom, like whatever.
Hmm.
Then um and for them, even with that, knowing how it's gonna turn out, they'd probably still do it over and over and over again. You know what I mean? Knowing like like them making like a sacrifice in a way, to make sure that
Hmm.
they can raise this in the manner that they want.
Yeah. 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 100%. Which makes me now think back to. I mean, this is a thread that's been throughout this whole podcast, and I want to say up front, right? This is like a disclaimer moment for this podcast that like in terms of identity and character and personality and all stuff. Like I think for me, nature versus nurture, we don't know, right? I'm just gonna throw it out there. Like I don't know if this is more nurture or more nature. Like let's just say that it's like some like you know variable 50-50. But um like I think women by and large, well, so let me back it up. So there's one thing that I've been trying to like learn more in the course of my relationships, which is like this idea of like emotional load, right? Which is like just the amount of resources you put to like thinking for other people or around other people, right? And I think you can make an argument that women, whether nature nurture, right, are a little bit better at that. Um, and for various reasons that can like that's better for like for example running a family, right? Like I remember whenever we went out to the park, my dad would be like, "Oh, let's go to the park," but my mom would have to be thinking like, "Do the kids have food? Do they have water? What happens after this eating thing?" You know what I mean? Like do they have their coats on? Like like is it cold? Like that's all these stuff that they had to like think around, and they're always thinking about that. And I think it starts at a really young age for women because you know because if you, for example, menstruate, you always have to think about like, do I am I ready for when it hits like randomly and like all that kind of stuff. So um, yeah, I guess this is all to say too that like I think that if you're someone who exerts a lot of emotional like bears a lot of emotional load, but there's no reward for it, it can be extremely alienating and like almost traumatic in a way to realize that you've done so much for everybody, um, and it's like not coming back in any way, shape, or form, which is a pretty like painful thing, I would say. Even having experienced it, even myself, right? Like, it's not like no, like everyone does it to some degree. Um, yeah, that was a bit of a tangent for no reason, I guess, but yeah.
Oh, there's a reason. Um,
What was the reason? I don't even know the reason. Asian
talking about
moms.
Asian moms like putting a lot of emotional load and handling it for everybody, but then possibly not
Mm-hmm.
getting that appreciation coming back in any form, and what type of psychological, like, I guess, damage or issues, or whatever negative effects can come from that. Um, yeah, that's why I think it's important for people to have kids at some point, because I think that at that point, um, no matter how much you appreciate your parents, I mean, okay, I don't think everyone should have kids, but I'm saying that this should be a major reason why people, if
Mm-hmm.
they haven't considered this and they're on the fence, adding this to their list of reasons, it should push them over. Um, I think you can't appreciate your parents fully or actually know what they're going through until you actually kind of go through that yourself. Um, in a way, it's kind of like like everything your mom did for you, everything your dad did for you. You know, everything your dad and mom did for you that you didn't want them to do for you when they were like, "Yo, Steven, do this," and you're like, "No, I don't want to do that shit." And maybe there's certain things in your head where you're like, oh, why didn't they let me fucking, like, for me, for instance, why didn't they let me fucking play sports growing up? Just shit
Yeah.
like that, right? I'm just like, what the fuck? Um, but I think once you get pushed in that position, when you have like a little, 7-year-old, and like, let's say he's smaller than everyone, but he wants to go play football and you don't want him to get hurt, and then you have to make that decision for them, then you empathize and you're like, oh shit, like, I realize how much they actually love me in this case, even though from my perspective formerly it didn't seem that way. So I think to like having kids is just a nice way to like close out that loop in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard to like have that appreciation to the level where it needs it to be, I think. I'm speaking from a perspective of not having kids, by the way. So this is uh
Yeah.
this is a hot take from Hack.
Um. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. There's for sure. Which is why I think too that like I think um I think do you remember Alan from Thailand, right? I think he was the first that put this notion in my head that like having a kid is like going on an LSD trip. It's like but it lasts like, X it's like it's an experience like nothing else, right? As
Hmm.
you alluded to. And I think that's why there's a little bit of a bias in society against people who don't have kids because for like you don't understand, you don't get it. And even though I'm child free and I there's a chance I might be child free till the end, I can understand it. I can totally understand it. Um, and I think that I also think that's why another reason, another vote for why having kids is important for people is because um, even if you like going back to the dreams and the vision or whatever, right? Like, I'm of the idea that like you set the highest possible vision for yourself, like the highest possible goal, right? That is truly something that you want and meaningful to you. Like the meaning cascades out, right? And trickles down to everything to you. Therefore, like whereas like you live in a world where nothing has any meaning, right? Like the world is inherently meaningless. Um, and you might like think that there's meaning, but maybe you'll find out that those are not yours, right? They're not personally meaningful to you. But once you have a kid, then everything you do is meaningful, right? Like showing up to work and filing out this fucking shitty ass TPS report is in some way like something you like. It's your meaningful now. It has duty, right? Um, and I think that for a lot of people, they can't like they wouldn't have that if they didn't have a kid, right? Like the kid is the thing that makes all of those moments now meaningful. Um, yeah, so it's important. It's made the world. It's brought us here, you know. But then now, like people aren't having kids, and there's a crisis of first world countries not having people not having kids.
You know what would be worse than being a dentist?
What?
And then realizing you didn't want to do it. It'd be having some fucking kids and then realizing you don't want to do it.
Ooh, I don't. I don't know. I don't know about that.
You think so? I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like if I had like, let's say, like three little fuckers to take care of, and I fucking hated all three of them, I'd be like,
Yeah.
oh my God, dude. At least as a dentist, you could like one day wake up and fucking like go do something else, even if you make less money. I guess unless you took out too many student loans to get to that point.
Yeah. I mean, it's objectively worse for sure, right? But I'm like, I'm trying to see it from the perspective of the person, you know, who has
Like, would you
that
rather
made
be a
that choice.
dentist? Would you rather be a dentist right now and be like, fuck, I owe loans for the next 10 years and I have to do this? Or would you rather have three kids you didn't want? I
How many kids is a dental degree? Is it
don't
three?
know, man. At least one.
At least one. No, no, no. It's object. Yeah. I mean,
I
I
guess
don't
I
know.
guess the more kids you add to it, the
Yeah,
harder. If it was one kid, you might be like, oh, that's kind of a push.
yeah. I probably agree with you. I'm just devil's advocate, or trying to like explore the other option, because like, I mean, like having people have been having kids and not giving a fuck about them, and like haphazardly for like literally millions of years, right? Like it's like,
Right.
oh fuck, I popped out another fucker. I hope he doesn't get eaten by a lion or die from dysentery or whatever, right? Um, and then society started to say, hey, you can't like you can't view kids that way. I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely objectively worse, but there are a lot of like pretty bad parents out there, and like you feel more responsibility to your kid, right? Like you would feel bad to not want to like now play this out for your kid, because you want to give the best to your kid, but some people would just be like, yeah, not my problem, like you know, yeah,
I guess, I mean, if you're a dentist, then there's a societal expectation to repay the money that you owe to get that dental degree. And then so you're locked in that way. In the other case, there's societal expectation to take care of your kids. In both cases, you can skirt those expectations with um, probably some sort of ramifications, uh, whether they're like societal. I guess, I mean, if you ditch your kids,
but so the thing is that like, but I guess what I'm trying to get at, and I'm developing this real time, right? Like, is that like your kid is like, you got really horny and you didn't use protection, right?
uh-huh.
Like, oh fuck, it's an accident. But the dental degree is like, oh my god, my whole, I've been like going for this thing for so long. I had so many chances to like ask myself if I really wanted to do this or not. It's not like I accidentally like, yeah, got drunk, fucked, and got a dental degree.
But the dental degree at a certain point is like a mistake that you've made for the last 18 years. A kid is a mistake that you have to deal with for the next 18 years. So
But
it's like
that's why it's almost a little better, right? Because
so
it's like,
you already fucked up. You know what I mean? Like the worst part's over, dude. Just file for bankruptcy and go do something else for the rest of your life. With a kid, with a kid, you're kind of locked in for at least, and you have to. The financial obligation of a kid is probably more than whatever your student loans are.
sure, yeah.
I don't know, man.
So yeah, it's worse. It's worse. I'm just doing devil's advocate.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
no.
but it comes down to like, is it's something worse because you spent more time making a bad decision? Like you invested more time in the wrong thing, or is it worse because it was avoidable and, but you just like randomly slipped up? Which I don't know. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I guess as a net like if you think about at the beginning of life, if you get a pick if you want to spend 18 years or whatever raising a kid that you didn't want, or spend all this time pursuing a dental degree and then being a dentist and be like, fuck, didn't want to do this, but I have to do it for another 10 years so I can pay off my loans. Then maybe they're net neutral.
Yeah.
But I feel like after you've already gotten past the worst part of it, like, obviously with a dental degree is probably the fact that you wasted your fucking time doing this thing that you didn't want to do for like your entire 20s.
Right, right, right,
And
right.
you're already
And
you're already out of the negative or the worst part.
yeah, yeah. Oh, you're right. I was completely off base. I don't know why I like chalked up kids to like this random decision. Like you could have been someone who thought you wanted kids. Everyone told you should have kids. You were like, that's what we do, and then you're
Oh my
geared up to
God.
have kids. You like plan everything around, like you build a little nursery, and then you're just like, fuck, I don't want this kid.
It's like, yeah, I fucking
Yeah,
hate this kid.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God, dude, that'd be the worst.
I like reading sometimes parents writing about like, because you love all your kids equally, but you don't like them all equally,
Hmm.
or you might not even love them all equally. Let's be honest, right?
Right. It's like I like that
Like your
one. I fucking
commitment
hate.
to them,
It's like
yeah,
I fucking hate that other one.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, man, kids are yeah, watch that happen to me. I'll have a kid up like, man, fuck. It was nothing like I thought it was gonna be. God damn it.
yeah, I mean, I think it's funny because like our age group, like we feel, I think we over index on like the infant part of having a kid, because we're just like, oh my god, loss of freedom, da da da, whatever. Like I won't sleep anymore, and this thing's pooping all the time. But apparently, like from what I read, that's like the easiest part. because the baby is not a human yet, right? And then once the human starts to ask questions and challenge you and talk back and can hurt other people or hurt themselves, like really truly, that's when it gets super freaking hard.
Oh, that sounds like the interesting part.
It is more interesting, but also more hard, right? More difficult. So
Yo, Liana learned how to ask why, and she literally just asked that like 16 times after everything I answer her.
that's a big moment.
Yeah, dude, she's like, hey, where you going? "Oh, I'm going to work. Why? Oh, because I have stuff to do. Why? Because and I'm just like going down this like little rabbit hole. She's like, why? I'm like, all right, Liana, see you later. She's like, why?
Yeah.
It's funny, yo, 2-year-olds.
What if you just ask why back to her? Like, what would she?
So,
Yeah.
all right, I'm gonna do that. What if she knows the
Yeah.
answer?
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, babies are crazy. Yeah.
That sounds like a meme template. Where just like this little kid asking why, and then all of a sudden like you ask why, you asking why, and then they just like drop some spiritual woke bomb.
Yeah. I do. Well, yeah, I'm still in the must have kids camp, I think. Pretty sure. But I guess we'll see what happens.
Well, yeah, I'm excited for you, man. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, no, I
But
mean that's the thing.
not to get too like personal about it. And I'm sure your mom gives you enough grief about this, but you know how we started this podcast with like this idea of like crazy deadlines that you should try to get on.
I think okay, well, I mean, I'm probably not on some sort of like I mean I know people that are like literally like oh and Lisa like Lisa's like oh yeah I want to have a kid by the time I'm 25 and then another one by the time I'm 27 and then another one or whatever timeline she had. I'm definitely not on that thing. I think it would be more like a winging it type of situation for me, which will probably make it a whole lot more fun. I think. Oh shit, a fucking kid. What do I do now?
I mean, but let's walk it back, right? You'll like probably need to like have been dating somebody for 2 years.
Not necessarily, but you're probably right.
Yeah, right.
That's a nice to have, wouldn't it?
I like how this option set starts to collapse itself. It's like, yeah, you know, we don't need that part of it. We get.
It's like, oh fuck a kid.
Oh man, God, there needs to be a Rick and Morty episode of just like yeah, like a baby like pops in and oh shit, what is kid
Yeah, oh
baby?
fuck a kid.
Yeah, oh fuck
Um,
a kid.
Maybe that'll be the title to the podcast, and nobody will know what that means until they get to the
To the
hour and
very
15
end.
minute point.
That's savage. Usually, I feel like it could occur like between 60 and 70% of the way through. But if it's like at the very end,
It's such a good title though. Oh fuck a kid.
yeah. Let's do "Oh Fuck a Kid," but I feel like in some future podcasts that will also be a great title, and that would be "Oh Fuck a Kid Part 2."
I gotta make sure to put a comma in there.
Oh yeah. Yes, you definitely. That comma is very important. That comma is extremely important.
All right,
Yeah.
let's wrap this one. I feel like we're um we got our title, so that's important. Do we need a weekly challenge?
Oh, we do need a weekly challenge.
I was gonna come early to shit.
Yeah, me too. I'll do that one.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about weekly challenges. I wanted to talk about some weekly challenges, but I'm gonna come early to shit this week. That'll be my weekly
All
challenge.
right, sounds
That's
good.
a
Sounds
big
good.
deal for me.
All right,
All right,
I'm
sweet.
excited for that one.
All right, I'm gonna wrap this.
All right.